Let's talk about password strategies. Are you unsure of the password that you're currently using for all of your sites that you go on? Are they complex enough? Do you forget them? Do you write them down, which you're not supposed to do? Well, I have a password strategy that just might help you out. Hi, this is Cybersecurity Steve. Welcome to Home Network Security Tips. Today we're going to learn a little bit about why we need strong passwords, and also we'll learn about the password strategy to make passwords a little easier. Maybe you can memorize them, and I'll even show you a way to write them down. Why do we need strong passwords? Well, if you ever go and Google and just type in list the most common passwords, you'll see something like this. These are all passwords that are used way too much, and they are not secure at all. Why? What do hackers use? Well, they'll use brute force. Brute force is when an attacker will create like a program and will try every possible combination of a password until they finally get a hit. Another method is a dictionary attack. That's where the attacker will actually run through a dictionary of words and get the encrypted version and compare them to the encrypted passwords that are stored in the hash table on your computer. And if there's a match, then they can see the plain text of that password. Rainbow attacks are kind of the same thing, where they're looking at all the commonly used passwords and just adding to a table and recursing through that table to compare the encrypted value to the encryptions stored in your hash table on your computer. The other method is social engineering, right? So say, for example, if you're on a website and you announce to everybody that you like cats, and then you tell everybody that your cat's name is Snowball, then an attacker can kind of guess that you'll probably be using passwords like Snowball 1, Snowball 2, and Snowball 1, 2, 3, and that's what social engineering is all about. Shoulder surfing is another technique used by hackers, where someone will actually look over your shoulder as you're entering in your password. Maybe you're on the train, or you're on a plane, or you're sitting in a coffee shop and somebody sees your password. They may use it, or they could sell it off to someone that is possibly buying them on the dark web. Well, let's talk about a strategy that you could use that could make your passwords a little bit more secure, and maybe make them complex enough so that you can keep them in your mind. I came up with this strategy. It's called the tricky password strategy, and tricky stands for topic, and replace some letters. You need an incrementer. You need capital letters. You need a keyboard pattern, and you'll need your location, which is your location of the site that you're using this password at. The key behind a tricky password is to create a password that is powerful, variable, and memorable. That's the key. You want to be able to memorize these things, right? So the first thing that we're going to look at is the topic. So what we do is we choose a topic with members that are interesting to you. This is something this is the one component that you have to memorize, right? So the topics should be at least 4 lowercase characters, but not more than 10. I mean, you can make it as complex as you want, as long as you want. Obviously, the longer the password, the better. The member should at least have 4 characters. Members should be easy to spell, for you to spell. Members should not be associated with personal information. You don't want it to be your children's name or your pet's name. And the members should each start with a unique starting letter, and that'll be the key. So here's some examples. Say, for example, you choose something that isn't inherently attached to you, right? So If you work in a record store, you don't want to choose bands. If you're an arborist, you don't want to choose trees. If you work in a pet store, maybe you want to choose birds. But you want something that's not directly correlated with you, but something that you can keep clear in your mind. In this example, we'll use fruit, right? And as I was saying, we want the first letter to be unique because it'll be a key that we'll keep in our mind. So L stands for lemon, A stands for apple, P is in peach, O is in orange, B is in banana. It's almost like when you have a bunch of keys on a key ring and you get those little color codes so that you can remember that this is to the cabinet, this is to the drawer, this is to my house, purple's to the house. It's the same type of thought pattern, right? So you want to choose a topic with a key. So when you say, what is a P? We know it's a peach. Next thing you want to do is you want to replace some of these characters. We're going to use the leap process to replace at least two of the letters with a number and one with a special character. Here's some common replacements that you would use. A can be the @ symbol. A B looks like an 8. A lowercase b looks like a 6. C looks like an open parentheses. An E looks like a 3. And so you're gonna take those and you're gonna replace 2 of the letters or 3 of the letters, whatever you want, in the member of the topic that you're using, right? So they kind of look the same if you look at them, right? It's still looks like a lemon, still looks like an apple, still looks like a peach, still looks like an orange, even though some of those letters have been replaced. The next thing we want to think about is an incrementer. An incrementer will allow you to change the password by incrementing the sequence number. So say, for example, if you work at a job and they ask you to change your passwords every 3 months or so, what you would do is then you would increment, okay? But we're not going to get into that. It's usually a number between 1 and 7. It can't be like your birthday or anything. It's going to be numeric keys 1 through 9 on your keyboard. And we'll get to that in a moment, but we'll just put that as a placeholder. The next thing we want to do is we want to put in our tricky password a capital letter. So this can be anything. This can be your initial or anything that you want to use. Let's use the example here where we just put a capital J. And that will just be a capital placeholder within our password. And you can change this, but again, this is something that you have to remember. So make it something that will be clear in your mind. You can even use 2 letters if you wanted to, but every password needs to have a capital letter. You can have 1 or 2, but it has to be something that you remember, and preferably not your personal initials. So if my name was John, I wouldn't use a capital J, right? The next thing is a keyboard pattern, and this kind of works in conjunction with our incrementer. I'll show you how that works. So this is a pattern on the keyboard that works with our incrementer. It will not change. The pattern will not change. The position will change. It should be a minimum of 3 characters. That includes one of the numeric keys, but no predictable patterns like 1, 2, 3, or 5, 6, 7, right? It can be like this one here, which is Q2W, or rolling up, which is FT6. In this case, the incrementer would be 6. In that first scenario, the incrementer would be 2. Or you could do something a little bit more complex like this, where the incrementer would be 7. And it could, it can start from the bottom and go up, or start from the top and go down. 7, 8, UH, or HU, 8, 7. So that's called a keyboard pattern associated with an incrementer. So now, for example, our incrementer is 2. We're using the keyboard pattern for the incrementer 2, which is Q2W. And now if we wanted to ever increment that, right, we'd roll to the next position, right? Now incrementer is in the 3 position, but it's a totally new numerical path. It's W3E. If we increment to 4, it becomes E4R, and so forth. And the last part of this tricky password strategy is your location. We want it to be unique to the website or the app or the thing that you're using this password on. And it should be based on the location, and it should be a minimum of 2 characters. And here's some examples, right? You could use the first and last character. So in the example of Facebook, it's FK, or Bank of America, BA. You could use any combination, but you have to keep that combination consistent in your mind. Always use the first and last character, or you can always use the first 2 characters, or you could always use the last 2 characters, or whatever works for you. In this instant, we're going to use the first and last character. Okay? Now, what we've done is we've created a very tricky password, right? It's extremely complex. It's extremely easy to remember. And the key is you have to use this strategy all the time. And you have to keep it in your mind. So let's test it out. Say, for example, if we want to create a new password for Sam's Discount. First thing I need to do is I need to create a topic. I'll go with my fruit topics, right? I'm going to select orange. And this topic also has the letter replacement, right? The next thing I want to do is I want to select an incrementer. And in this case, we'll select 5. I'll add my capital letter, and I'll choose my J, capital J. Again, it's not related to my name at all. And since I chose incrementer 5 and I have this keyboard pattern that's kind of like a V shape, my keyboard pattern is for incrementer 5 is 5T6. And then I want to choose a location. It's Sam's Discount. I'm choosing the first and last characters. And it becomes an ST. So that's my password that I created for Sam's Discount. And again, these are all individual components. You can put it in any order that feels right, but the key is to keep it consistent so that as you create passwords and as you change the topic and as you increment to different incrementers, it's all clear in your mind. And how can it stay clear in your mind, right? Well, it doesn't have to. You can write it down. So this password that we just created for Sam's Discount, we can easily write down 05, right? So 05 tells us that there's a key of O, and we know in our topics O means orange, and we know we spell orange with 0R at NG3, and then we know our capital letter because we always use J, or at least now we're using J. And then we know our incrementer because that's part of what we wrote down. It's 05. We know it's incrementer 5. And then we know that keyboard pattern, which is 5T6. And just by virtue of knowing our location indicator, Sam's Discount is an ST at the end. So in our mind, just by looking at this 05, we can already in our mind build that password without writing down the full thing. I'm always of the impression that having complex passwords and writing them down is better than having simple passwords and not writing them down. I think our bigger threat is somebody from the internet, not somebody that's going to break in your house and look at your passwords written down on a piece of paper in your desk drawer. It the rule for not writing down passwords goes to the days when we were in the office, right? You don't want to write down a password and then go home at the end of the night, and then the cleaning person can take a picture of all your passwords. If it's in a shared environment, don't write down your password. If you are the only one in your home office or home computer, then make complex passwords and write them down. However, using the tricky password strategy, you don't have to write them down. All you have to do is create this 2-letter code, OS, and you know it's the orange for Sam's Discount. And then the same thing if you wanted to create something for another location, Home Depot, right? And we said, all right, this is Home Depot is going to use P3. We know it's using the peach. We have the J. We have the three keyboard pattern, the 3 incrementer keyboard pattern, and then the HT definition for our location. Same with the gap, right? If we wanted to create a password and we just write down P5, it means that we're using the peach incrementer 5. And then, like I was saying earlier, each year or every 3 months, if you're asked to change the password, then all you have to do is increment the incrementer. And it rolls up the keyboard path and it becomes a whole new password. Especially if it's encrypted or hashed, it's very hard to derive. Then, if you ever hear there's a security breach somewhere, you get a notification that your password at some sort of location was breached. Then maybe you want to roll over to a new topic member, right? So Sam's Discount could become peach, and Home Depot could become orange, and whatever else we had, banana. And you have a whole new password regimen there. Well, I'm Cybersecurity Steve. Once again, this is a home network security tip where we learned a tricky password strategy, and hopefully this helps you out. Have a good day.